Following breaking news out of Baltimore, a federal judge says he will grant a temporary restraining order blocking part of President Trump's executive orders on transgender issues. One of the executive orders directs federal agencies to withhold funding to medical providers and institutions that provide gender-affirming care to people under the age of 19. NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor joins us now. So, Yamiche, this news just came down a few minutes ago. Walk us through the judge's decision here and what the impact could be.
Well, really, the impact, I think, is going to be the biggest question here. And it seems as though this judge is allowing this executive order to be paused, parts of it, saying that this is really putting children at extreme risk. I want to read part of what he said because I think it says a lot about how he came to this decision. He said, stopping care in the middle of proceeding any care really casts doubt on whether the goal is to protect the recipients of that care. He went on to say there has to be states to acknowledge how dangerous that is to any care, but specifically to this population. And our producer inside said that this was a judge who sounded very sympathetic throughout the hearing. He said in particular that transgender people are more likely to experience poverty, bullying, drug addiction, and unemployment. He also says the outcome seems to put these children at extreme risk. He also said that this executive order seems to deny that this population exists or even has the right to exist. And of course, we should remind folks that the president signed this executive order saying that there are only two biological sexes, male and female. He was essentially saying that transgender women, transgender men, that they should not be acknowledged and they should not at all receive any federal funding for gender affirming care. So this at least is going to put on pause that. What that actually means nationwide will be a big question because there are a lot of people who say that they've already had appointments canceled, that there are hospitals that are now turning away new patients for gender affirming care. So a lot of questions on what the consequences of this judge's ruling is going to be. But this is a judge that is siding with these transgender children and their parents, as well as a group of civil rights organizations and medical professionals, and against the Trump administration.
And Yamiche, you walked through a bit of the Trump administration's argument in terms of why they want these funds to be withheld. Have we heard from the White House or the plaintiffs on the judge's ruling here?
It's a key question. As of now, we have not heard from the White House, but this is all just breaking. We know that in the courtroom, there was some talk from the government's attorneys on how they would lose and whether or not there could be sort of restraints on what parts of the executive order would be paused. So I think that is still being debated because this is an administration that was very vigorously defending this executive order. We know that the president has been clear that he believes that talk of transgender, talk of more than two genders, that is harmful for children. That's why this executive order, he said in his mind, was to protect children. Of course, this judge is saying just the opposite, that it actually harmed children or put children in harm. And of course, the plaintiffs were also saying the same. So a big question of how the president himself is going to respond. But there is attorneys representing the Trump administration who are trying now to try to limit the scope of this judge's ruling.
Yamiche Alcindor with that breaking news from Washington. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.